Hi. Yes. Okay. Hello. Today is day 7 of day 358, which means it's our first week. I've been wanting to celebrate this, but let's get into the reading so that after the reading I can fully celebrate getting through the first week, at least laying down the foundation of the first week, right? Okay. So after I let's see. After I left off last, we pretty much discussed the most recent birth of the recent birth. Well, actually not a recent birth, because basically we discussed the birth of Isaac, Abraham and Sarah's first child after the long period of not being able to conceive, They finally have this child. They're finally able to see if this promise, this covenant with God is going to come to full fruition, So there's excitement here. There's thrill in that team, because now Abraham, Sarah, they have this child that's been long awaited, that's been talked about, that's been prophesized, that's been that pretty much the whole covenant between them and their Lord rests on the existence of this child, and now Isaac is there. And then there's still more that comes to pass between Isaac and what am I saying? No, not Isaac. Ishmael, right? So this is the first son of Abraham, birthed by the servant woman that is given to him as a, in my opinion, surrogate mother, or was an attempt at a surrogate mother. They ended up getting rushed or ran out of the house. I'm getting alerts here. My frame rate is too low. Okay, what does that mean? Too low. Please set it. I don't know. Okay, I'm just trying to get. Listen, can I set it here? Can I? Where? Tell me. You gotta make it move as it come through. It's not giving me options. It's telling me to set it, but okay, so my frame rate is at 14. There we go, now it's at 16. Stream metrics. Can I do anything about that? Are you allowing me the ability to raise my frame rate, like, physically? So then stop alerting me, okay? I don't know. I'm telling you, y'all, we're gonna work out all the kinks in the coming days. But today, I'm just trying to get through to my first week celebration, okay? Okay. I'm so excited that I even made it here, because, this was one of those situations where I wasn't really sure if it would. I doubt myself in everything I do. So, so I didn't think I would be here. And now that I'm here, I find such an ease, not in the stream, mind you, but in reading and trying to focus my mind on just the words and just the intention and just the emotion and just the human aspect of the biblical experience. I've had a lot of contention with just the thought of the Bible in my path here, and my path with God. And before I would have this thought that, like, okay, well, the Bible's not really a part of what I'm looking for when I look for God. You know, like, these stories don't really matter. I'm just trying to find God. And I did grow in some of that. Not saying that the stories don't matter, but I had to first find a personal foundation with God, and I realized that a lot of my hesitation, a lot of my shakiness in faith stemmed from not having no yeah not having a personal relationship, and kind of letting everything that is the Christian faith get in the way, like the church activity, the church people, the church other Christian people, other people of strong faith, and just them acting not of the best quality, you know, like there's always been this pull that I want God, I don't want godly people. And sometimes it was the godly people that was obscuring the vision, the sight, the walk towards God. And I don't think that's just a me story, like, but in my strengthening of faith, I had to go, okay, well, am I really gonna let these randoms stop me from finding? And it was seated in my heart that God is my God. So am I really going to let all of the fog remain obscured because of other people's behaviors or other people's interpretations of how I should be behaving, or the, you know, like, so yeah, when I finally shed that, it was nice to really start building like laying down the foundation of what it means to me to look for God and to find him and to hear him and to feel his presence. And there were small aspects I had to hold on to the feeling of God before I could hold on to the understanding. I had to hold on to the feeling of God before I could hold on to, like, and by the feeling of God, it was like, I know there's something out there protecting me. I know there's something out there fighting a battle for me I can't see. And I know there's something out there that is drawing me in this direction. It was I really had to, I was noting these occurrences that I would only call, oh, that's God. And I would pray, and those prayer, you know, the prayer, through the prayer, and some it's shaky, it's still shaky. I'm not saying I pray 20, like, every day. Actually, no, I have been praying every day recently. Not just this week, but, like, yeah, that was a radical change I've made a couple months ago, was to try to, but, maybe I digress. My point was, I'm surprised to be here because I had such angst against the writing and the foundation that is the biblical text. And I've had such angst about, you know, those verse warriors that would throw certain verses at you in order to manipulate certain behavior out of you, or, you know, excuse me. Yeah, there was always such angst, and I didn't want that to be a part of my deterrent towards God anymore. So I had to take other people out of it, which is why I wanted to build a closer, more personal, more intimate relationship. And as I went through that drive, he placed certain people in my life. One person specifically, like, she's just amazing to me, and I'm so happy I found her. You know, my girl Jasmine, I'm so happy I found her at the time I did. Like, and it's not I found her. I'm so happy God made that appearance for me at the time it was needed and well received. You know, there's certain moments in your life that you know it was only God. And that was definitely one of them for me. Yes, so we're here now. And, you know, I'm feeling more blessed than before. I'm feeling more in tune than before. I think I'm now in the stage of my life where I can look at all of the complications behind this biblical text and shake all of that free from God's will and God's intent. So, like, I'm trying to I feel like I'm shifting for gold. Like, I just want the word that's of God, that living word, you know. I just want that part. I don't want any of the other misquoting, you know. I just don't want any of the other, like, just the God. The God that's the word that's the God, you know. Like, I just want that. Moving on. Moving into the reading. Today we're reading Genesis 22 to 24 and Psalm 7, right? I'm gonna look at these again. Yes, 22 to 24 and Psalm 7. Well, we start off with the devotional, and as always, when there's a devotional video, I link it to the video description of today's reading. And that the devotional is called The Test. It's done by the BibleProject, and basically, you can watch it. It's about 7 minutes long. I just finished watching it. It didn't really express anything different, exciting, you know, whatever, nothing like that. But the way that they express certain aspects of what it is to be tested by God, I think is a I'm not gonna just reiterate, but I think it's really good to go listen to that video because it gives you a moment to really think about what it means to be tested. And I know a few people, I've had conversations where the test elicited a negative response. And, you know, to be fair, I'm like, yeah, why does he have to do all that? You know, like, why? So I think I've already also had moments where the testing of God has elicited a negative or adverse response. But I still firmly believe negatively engaging with God is still engaging with God. Like, negatively engaging with that, sometimes the faith is yelling. Sometimes the faith is lamenting. Sometimes the faith is reaching out and telling him you don't understand. Sometimes that's, you know, part of the process. But the key there is to always, as much as you are able, to leave your heart vulnerable to him working in you. So, moving towards the reading, why does God test people? In this video, we trace the repeated theme of testing in the Bible and see how God determines the loyalty and trust of his covenant partners. Though these tests are rarely easy, they offer God's people important opportunities for growth and transformation. Basically, if I was going to sum up the video, what it enlightens me towards was going and saying, like, sometimes when you're working with someone in partnership, you give them a task you try to figure out how much of the work you can trust them with when you give them a task. You go, that way you know how much you can rely on them. And that may be the basic human way to really understand, like, your coworkers. Sometimes you gotta understand how they work to see how much you can trust them to get done. Or, like, you know, if you're working on a project in school and you're working in a group, you quickly realize which group members are pulling their weight and which group members are. Not necessarily that you're testing their ability or anything like that, but they've essentially gone through some kind of assessment of your own. Whether you outright said, yeah, I'm assessing what you're capable of, isn't really the point, right? Is at some point you've realized how much you yourself will be able to depend on them. And that goes for a lot of group dynamics and partnerships. You gotta know who you can turn to for what and who can support you where. And I think that's what the video is trying to explain, that when God's doing this testing is not to shun you, to lock you out, is not to wait for you to fail, it's not to any of that. It's to understand how much of the faith walk, the belief, how much of, honestly, the work when God tests you isn't even work. It's how much will you allow me in here? How much will you believe that what I said is the truth? Yeah, I don't know if I really explained that video with any due justice, so go watch it. The link's in the description, and we're gonna jump into the reading. Abraham's faith is tested. Sometime later, God tested Abraham's faith. Abraham, God called. Yes, he replied, here I am. Take your son, your only son. Yes. Ooh, not your only son. Take your son, your only son. Yes, Isaac, whom you love so much, and go to the land of Moriah. Go and sacrifice him as a burnt offering on one of the mountains, which I will show you. Burnt offerings. Oh, there's a movie. Wow, that's interesting. No, I just want to know what it means. What do you meaning? Bible. Gives instructions for a burnt offering. The piece made in the twine. Individuals could also make a burnt offering to show their devotion and commitment to God. So this, the burnt offering further gets explained in Leviticus. I don't know how far from Leviticus we are, so I will write this somewhere that it does explain what the steps are for a burnt offering. But basically the purpose in the Old Testament, the biggest difference between the burnt offering and other offerings is that to make a burnt offering, the entire animal was burned on the altar, symbolizing total commitment or surrender to God. As you read, think about different ways the burnt offering can teach us about the atonement of Jesus and how it reminded the Israelites of their duties. Okay, that's for something else. But basically, the burnt offering is to symbolize total commitment and total surrender to God. Also, when I read this, I've never really thought about how far the travel is. I've heard this point of the story. Everyone's always talks about how God comes through. A lot of sermons talk about how God comes through at the last minute and Isaac proved his faith, and God then provided him with he's provisionary God, and he provides him with the lamb, and they always talk about that. But can we talk about how this man had to hike a whole mountain in his ripe old age of at least 101, 102? I don't know how old Isaac is at this point, but he had to walk up this mountain toe in toe with his son and go up there knowing that he was preparing to burn his son. Not alive, to kill and then burn the body of his son. All for the sake of his relationship and his commitment to God. The next morning, so again, Abraham acts right away. Abraham got up early. He saddled his donkey and took 2 of his servants with him, along with his son Isaac. Then he chopped wood for a fire, for a burnt offering, and set out for the place God had told him about. On the 3rd day of their journey, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. "Stay here with the donkey," Abraham told the servants. "The boy and I will travel a little further. We will worship there, and then we will come right back." Ooh, okay. So Abraham's keeping all of this. Yeah, go and sacrifice him. Okay, so Abraham's keeping all of this under wraps. I'm sure Sarah didn't know. I'm sure none of the servants knew. And, he gets close to the mountain. This is a 3-day hike. No one knows what the plot that's simmering. I don't want to say plot because that sounds, but plot that's simmering in Abraham's mind. And he's carrying the weight of this as he's walking. I'm sure there is turmoil galore, right? So he's this mountain of Moriah is 3 days away from where he was. He has 3 days to then figure out how far he's going through on this sacrificing my son on the altar. So I don't know if there's a little bit in the back of Abraham's mind going, well, at least I have Ishmael. I don't know if any of that. I would assume that thought popped in, well, at least Ishmael, maybe if anything, Ishmael, anyway, right, on the 3rd day, right, so then he tells the servants to stay here, and then he lies to the servants. He says, the boy and I will travel a little further, we're going to go worship, but then we will be right back, right, so they don't know that I'm not planning on coming back with Isaac. Abraham's not planning on coming back with Isaac, but he said we'll be right back. So Abraham placed the wood for the burnt offering on Isaac's shoulders, while he himself carried the fire and the knife. Okay, so a lot of time has passed. A lot of time has passed. Enough time for Isaac to be able to walk up this mountain on his own while carrying the burden of the wood that he's about to be burnt by. So, okay. So he carries the fire and the knife. As the two of them walked on together, Isaac turned to Abraham and said, "Father." "Yes, my son," Abraham replied. "We have the fire and the wood," the boy said, but where is the sheep for the burnt offering?" God will provide the sheep for the burnt offering, my son, Abraham answered, and they both walked on together. Yeah, because you can't go tell the boy, like, well, you the sheep in this scenario, okay? Because then this is a full capable boy. He's gonna run away, like, or start crying at the very least. "How could you do this to me, Father?" When they arrived at the place where God had told him to go, Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood on it. I bet you in this whole thing, he's like praying to God, like, please don't let me have to kill my son, like, please. Then he turned, Then he tied his son Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. And Abraham picked up the knife to kill his son as a sacrifice. See, I don't like that none of the Bibles here express. I'm gonna look, because you can't tell me none of these Bibles are gonna mention the reply or the reaction Isaac is having in this moment. Compare. Let's see. New Living Translation didn't do it. Passion Translation doesn't have a version. The King James Version says, my son God will provide himself a lamb for a burnt offering. So they went, both of them together, and they came to the place where God had told of him. And Abraham built an altar there and laid the wood in order and bound Isaac his son, and he laid him to the altar upon the wood. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And the angel of the Lord called upon him out of heaven and said, "Abraham, Abraham." He said, "Here I am." Okay. So nobody cares at this point about Isaac's response. At least Moses, who wrote this chapter, does not care to express the state of mind that Isaac is going in. Because the only reason why because these are all moments where doubts, where your conviction is shaken, right? Because Abraham has to tie up his son himself. His son is conscious at the moment, or there's no moment where it says that, he knocks his son unconscious or anything. I'm sure his son is begging and pleading for his life without full understanding or awareness of what's going down in that moment. There are tears here. There are tears here. The impact of this moment on both of these people is a test of faith. I know it's written in the Abraham perspective, but even in the Isaac perspective, this is a test as well. Because this could very well be a traumatic incident that keeps him, because he's part of this covenant too. I know no one has straight up expressed or talked to Isaac about it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they told him. But he's not getting messages from God. He's not seeing the visitation, the deliverance, right? So he didn't hear the promises. He wasn't told about the counting the stars in the sky through God himself. This could very well be a moment that shakes Isaac to the core of his faith. So then, at the moment he goes to kill his son, an angel of the Lord, so it's not the Lord, just an angel of the Lord, called to him from heaven, "Abraham, Abraham." "Yes," Abraham replied, "here I am." "Don't lay a hand on the boy," the angel said. Do not hurt him in any way, for now I know that you truly fear God. You have not withheld from me even your son, your only son." I'm having a little problem with verse 12 just from an English perspective, like grammatically. The point of view here in which that it starts talking, it says certain things as if it's the angel talking, but then it switches to as if God is talking right here. It says, "Do not hurt him in any way, for now I know you truly fear God. You have not withheld from me even your son, your only son." So this sentence of "you have not withheld from me even your son, your only son," I feel like that would have came from God, but it's written or italicized as if it came from the mouth of an angel. I don't know if that's really a point that matters. It just confuses me. That's all I'm. But either way, the point gets driven that Abraham is truly trying to be radically obedient to the orders given to him or the commands given to him by God, even to the point where he is willing to kill Isaac. Then Abraham looked up and saw a ram caught by its horns in the thicket. So he took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering in place of his son. Abraham named the place Yahweh Yireh, which means the Lord will provide. To this day, people still use that name as a proverb. On the mountain of the Lord, it will be provided. Alright, let's do some highlight work here. In a minute, that needs to be purple, and then, what is this mountain called? Mountain of Moriah, we're gonna do that. White. I need to realize that this thing was 3 days away. This was a 3-day journey. And like the whole process of preparing for this sacrifice, chopping down the wood, preparing the donkeys, telling the servants to come along, packing for the trip, journeying through the trip, setting up camp, and then breaking down camp, and then moving through the I'm assuming wilds, wilderness, whatever, traveling through, finding the mountain, seeing it there, resting, letting the servants and all of that rest while you go on and go off ahead, going up, walking just the two of you, hand in hand, Isaac and Abraham, like going towards the mountain, the son turning around going, "Yo, so Dad, like, where's the sheep that we're gonna go kill?" The innocence of that moment of like, "Hey Dad, so we have the fire, we have the wood, but where's the sheep?" To then becoming the victim of this potential sacrifice, right? For Isaac anyway, and then the perpetrator for Abraham. And maybe these aren't the words that I should be using, but those are the words that fit in my head right now. So, all of this, I wonder if this is stemming from the original lack of faith Abraham showed in this covenant. And by that I mean, would this test that's happening right now with the potential sacrifice of Isaac, have existed if Sarah or Sarai, I can't remember what they were named at that moment, Sarai, and Abraham didn't conceive a child and try to make this covenant exist themselves, didn't conceive a child, didn't turn towards the human logic of like, here's my servant as a surrogate. If none of that initial wobble in faith happens, would this test be necessary? The next morning, Abraham got up. Oh, I'm sorry. I went back up to do some highlighting. On the third day, after highlighting that, took 3 days, stay here. And then I need the lie, the boy and Iable. Yeah, I'm sure it's probably the same thing. Alright, and then the Isaac moments. Oh my gosh. And then and Genesis 22 verse 8, where he says, God will provide a sheep for the burnt offering, my son. Abraham answered, and they both walked together. I don't think he's trying to say this in comforting, to comfort Isaac, or at least solely to comfort Isaac. I think he's saying this fully comforted by that statement. I think Genesis 22:8 is the strength. It's a response that is the strength of Abraham's faith. It's the response saying, God is gonna provide the sheep for the burnt offering. I don't think, like, I not that there was a doubt that he would have to go and sacrifice his son, but I think he believed that this request would be met in a way that was outside of his vision. God will provide a sheep for the burnt offering, my son. Abraham answered, and they both walked on together. I'm sure this was a moment of, I'm sure there was a lot of silence, a lot of, not necessarily a jovial trip, you know, like, I'm sure there was a lot of moment for silent contemplation. Let's see, I'm gonna highlight this in light green because I'm seeing this as a moment where he's like so sure that something else will be, God will provide something else as the sheep for this offering. Like, he's given me that I think he was trying to reassure, or at least reassured by that statement himself, and telling Isaac. And maybe as Isaac laid on the altar, he was reaffirmed by that statement as well. I'm sure it must have played in his head what his father had just told him. And he was like, God's going to provide a sheep for his burnt offering. Okay. Oh, we're not done. Okay, wait. Sorry. Okay, so we're in Genesis 22:15. Then the angel of the Lord called again to Abraham from heaven. This is what the Lord says. Because you have obeyed me and have not withheld even your son, your only son. Yo, they keep doing this. Your only son, I swear by my name that I will certainly bless you. I will multiply your descendants beyond number, like the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Your descendants will conquer the cities of their enemies, and through your descendants all the nations of the earth will be blessed, all because you have obeyed me. Then they returned to the servants and traveled back to Beersheba, where Abraham continued to live. Soon after this, Abraham heard that Michael, his brother Nahor's wife, had bore Nahor 8 sons. The oldest was named Uz. The next eldest was named Buz. Followed by Kamel, the ancestor of the Arameans. Kishad, Hazo, Pildash, Jidlaph, and Bethuel. Bethuel became the father of Rebekah. In addition to these 8 sons from Michael, Nahor had 4 other children from his concubine Ruma. Names were Taba, Gaham, Tahash, and Mahek. Okay, so the Bible does a great, or at least this verse does it. It does this thing often where it tells you these crazy events, like, hey, this happened, and you're sitting here holding on to like, wow, that's intense. And then leaving you hanging when you're trying to figure out, okay, how did they cope with that? How did Isaac cope with this situation between his father, the trust he has in his father, and this journey and this almost being sacrificed and all of that? How did he cope with that experience? And then Abraham, Isaac, did they keep that situation a secret between themselves? Did Sarah never find out what happened on that mountaintop that day? Or did they testify that this occurred? They had to testify that this occurred because it's in the Bible. It's written by someone else, so they knew. They knew about all of this. Moses wrote this. Abraham did not, which means Moses had to get an account of this story. Which means that this story was being told. So Sarah found out at some point. How did they cope with all of this? Like, faith is one thing, but coping in that faith is another, okay? Now, we know how Sarah worked so hard to have a son. Do you really think she would have bought the idea, even though I think she was the first one to offer up her servant to figure this out. So the first little slip up of faith was offered by, or stemmed from, Sarah's belief or lack of belief that she wouldn't be able to have a kid. So to know she labored as much as she labored, and then you did what to my son? Like, you were gonna do what? See, this is one thing, like, I understand my faith needs to be strong for when the enemy comes against me. But how strong does your faith need to be when it's not an enemy. It's your leader. It's your God telling you to do something that is, by all accounts, crazy. Like, that's crazy. You want me to do what? Like, you need strength to withstand the enemy's attack, but then you need strength to stand up to the God's commands. So like, to carry out God's commands, like, ooh, ooh. Okay. I don't know why it suddenly jumps to genealogy, but these people will be important in the future, I assume. I do appreciate that in this story we get to hear what the command was, see the radical obedience, and then hear the confirmation of reward for that obedience. Reward for that obedience. It's one swift telling of all of this. Also, what's kind of crazy to me is that God, I mean, he's a king. He's sitting on his throne in heaven. And he's just having angels. Yeah, so I told Abraham to go sacrifice his son. Do me a favor, keep an eye out on the, see how he does, and get back to me. That's what I'm imagining happening between him and his angels. And his angels are looking at him like, yes, God. Like, okay, yes. And then, like, the angel watching over this situation, go, is he really gonna, like, is he really, like, how far is he gonna carry this out? All right, so let's see, he packed the donkey. Okay, all right, cool. So cut down the tree, right? He has some wood. When is he gonna back up? Because I don't feel like he's gonna carry he's gonna carry through on this. And just like having to be the one to watch this situation play out. Giving God updates. Okay, yeah, so he packed the donkey. They're on the way, day 2, they had to set up camp somewhere. I think they still going though. He's at the base of the mountain, God, like, he really made it this far? Like, oh my gosh. They don't name the angels, but that must have been something to watch. Genesis 23, the burial of Sarah. When Sarah was 127 years old, she died at, one of the daughters let me know that when there is a name on here and I don't know how to pronounce it, this Bible Lab has the feature where you hit this play button.
Chapter 23, the burial of Sarah. When Sarah was 127 years old, she died at Kiriath Arba, now called Hebron.
Kiriath Arba. That's what it said. Kiriath Arba. There we go. Now called Hebron, in the land of Canaan. There Abraham mourned and wept for her. Then leaving her body, he said to the Hittite elders, "Here I am, a stranger and a foreigner among you. Please sell me a piece of land so I can give my wife a proper burial." The Hittites replied to Abraham, "Listen, my lord, you are an honored prince among us. Choose the finest of our tombs and bury her there. No one here will refuse to help you in this way." Then Abraham bowed low before the Hittites and said, "Since you are willing to help me in this way, be so kind as to ask Ephraim, son of Zohar, to let me buy his cave at Machpelah, down at the end of his field. I will pay the full price in the presence of witnesses, so I will have a permanent burial place for my family." So essentially, he's buying himself a mausoleum, him and his family. And okay, Ephron was sitting there among the others, and he answered Abraham as the others listened, speaking publicly before all the Hittite elders of the town. "No, my lord," he said to Abraham, "please listen to me. I will give you the field and the cave. Here in the presence of my people, I give it to you. Go and bury your dead." Abraham again bowed low before the citizens of the land, and he replied to Ephron as everyone was listening, "No, listen to me. I will buy it from you. Let me pay the full price for the field so I can bury my dead there." Ephron answered Abraham. So this is a negotiation for this land, but like in reverse, like, "Yo, give it to me." It's not, "Yo, give it to me." It's like, "I will give it to you." He's like, "No, let me buy it." Like, "I will give it to you." "No, let me buy it." Okay, let's see how that plays out. Ephron answered Abraham, "My lord, please listen to me. The land is worth 400 pieces of silver, but what is but that between friends? Go ahead and bury your dead." So Abraham agreed to Ephron's price and paid the amount he suggested, 400 pieces of silver, weighed according to the market standard. So you know how, like, in old times they were weighing out their gold because it actually had gold in it via weighted, that's a pill bottle or whatever, but like weighted like ingots, and that's what that means, weighed out according to the market standard. The Hittite elders witnessed the transaction. So Abraham brought the plot of land belonging to Ephron at Machpelah near Mamre. This place comes up a lot, this Mamre place. This included the field itself, the cave that was in it, and all the surrounding trees. It was transferred to Abraham as his permanent possession in the presence of the Hittite elders at the city gate. Then Abraham buried his wife Sarah there in Canaan, in the cave of Machpelah near Mamre, also called Hebron. So the field and the cave were transferred from the Hittites to Abraham for use as his permanent burial place. I want to know why that's so important. Yeah, because they're going into extreme detail. Yeah, there's at least 20 verses of detail about Sarah's funeral, the acquisition of a mausoleum, technically, or sort of, the placement of Abraham's family mausoleum. It's not quite making an impact, but maybe it will. Moving on. A wife for Isaac. Abraham was now a very old man, and the Lord had blessed him in every way. One day Abraham said to his oldest servant, the man in charge of his household, take an oath by putting your hand under my thigh. Let's read this in the King James, shall we? And Abraham said to his eldest servant of his house, the one that ruled over all that he had, Put, I pray thee, thy hand under my thigh. Place your hand between my thighs and make a vow. Okay. We're going to put a pin in that. Take an oath by putting your hand under my thigh. Swear by the Lord. So is this like place your right hand on the Bible, left hand on the Bible, right hand on the Bible? Okay. Swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and earth, that you will not allow my son to marry one of these local Canaanites women. Go instead to my homeland, to my relatives, and find a wife there for my son Isaac. The servant asked, but what if I cannot find a young woman who is willing to travel so far from home? Should I then take Isaac there to live among your relatives in the land you came from? No, Abraham responded. Be careful never to take my son there, for the Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and my native land, solemnly promised to give this land to my descendants. He will send his angel ahead of you, and he will see to it that you find a wife there for my son. If she is unwilling to come back with you, then you are free from this oath of mine. But under no circumstances are you to take my son there. So the servant took an oath by putting his hand under the thigh of his master, Abraham. He swore to follow Abraham's instructions. Then he loaded 10 of Abraham's camels with all kinds of expensive gifts from his master, and he traveled to distant Aram Naharaimi. See, I love this play button feature, but it doesn't let me specifically. Does it?
Chapter 24. A wife for Isaac.
Oh, I can. Hold on. Where was it? What chapter? I want to know.
Then he loaded 10 of Abraham's camels with all kinds of expensive gifts from his master, and he traveled to distant Aram Naharaim. There he went to the town where
That sounds much different from how I said it.
Made the camels kneel beside a well just outside the town.
Pause.
It was evening.
Pause, please.
And the women were coming out.
Pause, man. Abraham Neharami. Hariam. Aram Naharaim. There he went to the town where Abraham's brother Nahor had settled. He had the camels kneel beside a well just outside the town. It was evening, and the women were coming out to draw water. "O Lord, God of my master Abraham," he prayed, "please give me success today, and showing unfailing love to my master Abraham. See, I am standing here beside this spring, and the young women of the town are coming out to draw water. This is my request. I will ask one of them, please give me a drink from your jug. If she says, yes, have a drink, I will water your camels too. Let her be the one who you have selected as Isaac's wife. This is how I will know that you have shown unfailing love to my master. Okay. So you're gonna set up this test not only of these women, but you're really just setting up a moment. You made this prayer and you're setting up a moment for God to show himself. And then you engage in this activity of like waiting for the specific response expectantly. This is how I will know that I'm in the right place. Okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. And we still don't know who this servant by name, but he's just some servant. He's the head butler. Okay. Before he had finished praying, he saw a young woman named Rebecca come out. Genealogy, right? So this is also Namor's granddaughter. Yeah, because Namor has a kid, and that kid becomes the father of Rebecca. Coming out with her water jug on her shoulder. She was the daughter of Bethuel, who was the son of Abraham's brother Namor, and his wife Milcah. Rebecca was very beautiful and old enough to be married, but she was still a virgin. She went down to the spring, filled her jug, and came up again. Running over to her, the servant said, "Please, give me a little drink from your jug." "Yes, my lord," she answered. "Have a drink." And she quickly lowered her jug from her shoulder and gave him a drink. When she had given him a drink, she said, "I'll draw water for your camels too, until they have had enough to drink." So she quickly emptied her jug into the watering trough and ran back to the well to draw water for all his camels. The servant watched her in silence, wondering whether or not the Lord had given him success in his mission. Then at last, when the camels had finished drinking, he took out a gold ring for her nose and 2 large gold bracelets for her wrists. A gold ring for her nose and 2 large gold bracelets. It's official. Nose rings. Biblical. Nose rings are biblical. Sorry, but you know every like Caribbean mom, who doesn't want their child to pierce their nose has thrown some sort of, but your God, your body is a temple for God, some sort of something. I don't. But y'all do with that information what y'all will. She took out a gold ring for her nose and 2 large gold bracelets for her wrist. "Whose daughter are you?" he asked. "And please tell me, would your father have any room to put us up for the night?" "I am the daughter of Bethuel," she replied. "My grandparents are Nahor and Milcah. Yes, we have plenty of straw and feed for your camels, and we have room for guests." The man bowed low and worshipped the Lord. "Praise the Lord, God of my master Abraham." He said, "The Lord has shown unfailing love and faithfulness to my master, for he has led me straight to my master's relatives." The young woman ran home to tell her family everything that had happened. Now Rebecca had a brother named Laban who ran out to meet the man at the spring. He had seen the nose ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrists and had heard Rebecca tell what the man had said. So he rushed out to the spring where the man was still standing beside the camels. Laban said to him, "Come and stay with us, you who are blessed by the Lord. Why are you standing here outside the town when I have a room all ready for you and a place prepared for your camels?" So the man went home with Laban, and Laban unloaded the camels, gave him straw for their bedding, fed them, and provided water for the man and the camel drivers to wash their feet. Then food was served, but Abraham's servants... I'm starting to realize that wash your feet is the new take a bath. I feel like that's the equivalent here. Okay, wash their feet. Then the food was served, but Abraham's servant said, "I do not want to eat until I have told you why I have come." "All right," said Laban. "Tell us." "I am Abraham's servant," he explained, "and the Lord has greatly blessed my master. He has become a wealthy man. The Lord has given him flocks of sheep and goats, herds of cattle, a fortune in silver and gold, and many male and female servants, and camels and donkeys. And Sarah, my master's wife, was very old. When Sarah, my master's wife, was very old, she gave birth to my master's son, and my master has given him everything he owns. And my master made me take an oath. He said, 'Do not allow my son to marry one of the local Canaanite women. Go instead to my father's house, to my relatives, and find a wife there for my son.' But I said to my master, 'What if I cannot find a young woman who is willing to go back with me?' He responded, 'The Lord, in whose presence I have lived, will send his angel with you and will make your mission successful. Yes, you must find a wife for my son from among my relatives, from my father's family. Then you will have fulfilled your obligation. But if you go to my relatives and they refuse to let her go with you, you will be free from my oath.' So today, when I came to the spring and I prayed this prayer, 'O Lord God of my master Abraham, please give me success in this mission. See, I am standing here beside the spring. This is my request. When the young woman comes to draw water, I will say to her, "Please, give me a little drink from your jug." If she says, "Yes, have a drink, and I will draw water for your camels too," let her be the one you have selected to be the wife of my master's son." Before I had finished praying in my heart, I saw Rebecca coming out with her water jug on her shoulder. She went down to the spring and drew water. So I said to her, "Please give me a drink." And she quickly lowered her jug from her shoulder and said, "Yes, have a drink." I wonder how many times they're hearing the story at this point, right? Because Rebecca had already just told them that this happens so Laban can go meet the man. So they just heard this. She quickly lowered her jug from her shoulder and said, "Yes, have a drink, and I will water your camels too." So I drank, and then she watered the camels. Then I asked, "Whose daughters are you? Whose daughter are you?" And she replied, "I am the daughter of Bethel, and my grandparents are Nahor and Michal." Milcah. So I put the ring on her nose and then bracelets on her wrists. Then I bowed low and worshiped the Lord. I praised the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, because he had led me straight to my master's niece to be his son's wife. So tell me, will you or won't you show unfailing love and faithfulness to my master? Please tell me yes or no, and then I'll know what to do next. Y'all, I think this servant is stressed, bro. Like, I think this journey was long. I think his doubt was very, very prevalent. His uncertainty was very prevalent throughout the whole journey. Throughout finding this, he's like, but look, I'm here. I'm doing what I can to show unfailing love to my master. So God, like, help a brother out, because this is a very hefty request to find a wife for my master's son. I want to be able to do this, but I am in a foreign land, in a place unknown to me, and I'm searching a needle in a haystack here, right? Like, I can't just go. We can't call your family ahead. There was no communications. There's no post. No send a letter. Well, maybe there is a send a letter. I don't know. But apparently there was no way to just have the mail sent over. Send out a shout out to the family and be like, hey, do you have any wives for my son? So I'm sure they would have traded that over mail. Sorry. But yeah, he's so stressed in the retelling of this story. But he's like, here, this is what went down in my life to get me to this point. And this seems like, I ended up in the right place. Could you imagine? Like, this is crazy. I ended up in the right place, though. So, are you okay with this? Because if you okay with this, then I know what goes down next. Like, you're either going to say no, she can't go, and I have to return home empty-handed. But either way, I tried. Or, you going to let her come? That's a lot of faith work. That's a lot of faith work to journey in faith, to be uncertain of the place you're standing in, of being able to complete said unknown mission or whatever, and then having to explain this to a group of people who don't really know you. So you definitely have to be a little thorough in your explanation. But in all of that, this is grounded in love. He wants to be successful in his mission to his master and show unfailing love. So he's doing all of this. All of it. You know, you lost me at a little place your hand but behind my thigh. But hey, who am I to question an oath? The method of an oath. So that I can know what to do next. Then Laban and Bethel replied, the Lord has obviously brought you here, so there is nothing we can say. Here is Rebekah. Take her and go. Yes, let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has directed. When Abraham's servant heard the answer, he bowed down to the ground and worshipped the Lord. There's a lot of prayer happening here. Prayer and praise. When he brought out silver and gold. I'm going to turn this off. I was cold, and I'm not cold anymore. Oh. Okay. Then he brought out silver and gold, jewelry and clothes and presented them to Rebekah. He also gave expensive presents to her brother and mother. Then they ate their meal, and the servant and the men with him stayed there overnight. But early the next morning, Abraham's servant said, "Send me back to my master, but we want Rebekah to stay with us at least 10 days, her brother and mother said. Then she can go. But he said, "Don't delay me. The Lord has made my mission successful. Now send me back so I can return to my master." "Well," they said, "we'll call Rebekah and ask her what she thinks." So they called Rebekah. "Are you willing to go with this man?" they asked her. Now y'all asking the question? Y'all just gave her away. Y'all didn't ask her then. And she replied, "Yes, I will go." So they said goodbye to Rebekah and sent her away with Abraham's servant and his men. The woman who had been Rebekah's childhood nurse went along with her. They gave her this blessing as she parted. I thought they went with her. So how did they give her a blessing as she parted? Okay, wait. "Oh, sister, our sister, may you become the mother of many millions." Oh, right, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people are aware of the covenant promise between the house of Abraham, the household of Abraham is operating under. Sorry, excuse me. I'm pretty sure they're aware of that promise because, like, word travels before people do. And then there's a lot happening at the household of Abraham. Like, there was the whole circumcision event. There was definitely the weaning off of Isaac. That was a party. That was a celebration. Ishmael's probably out there spreading some words and rumors, and Hagar's probably out there spreading some words and some stories. And there's a lot going on. So I'm sure that the people know, right? They gave her this blessing as she departed. "Oh, sister, may you become the mother of many millions. May your descendants be strong and conquer the cities of their enemies." Then Rebekah and her servant girls mounted the camels and followed the man. So Abraham's servant took Rebekah and went on his way. Meanwhile, Isaac, who was home in Negev, had returned from Beer-lahai-roi. One evening he was walking and meditating in the fields. He looked up and saw the camels coming. When Rebekah looked up and saw Isaac, she quickly dismounted from her camel. Who is that man walking through the fields to meet us?" she asked the servant. And he replied, "It is my master." So Rebekah covered her face with her veil. Then the servant told Isaac everything he had done. And Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent, and she became his wife. He loved her deeply, and she was a special comfort to him after the death of his mother. Oh, I didn't even realize that this happens before the whole death of his mother. Or maybe, wait, what? How does this play out time-wise? And Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent. Compare. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. Brought her into his mother Sarah's tent. So I guess this was all happening simultaneous before the burial and acquisition of the family mausoleum land. the search for a wife had begun. So Sarah did get to meet Rebecca in the set, and then timeline's a little iffy right there. But let's just say those events coincided, and Rebecca and Sarah were able to have at least some time together. We're on to Psalm 7, right? A psalm of David, which he sang to the Lord concerning Cush of the tribe of Benjamin. I come to you for protection, O Lord my God. Save me from my persecutors. Rescue me. If you don't, they will maul me like a lion, tearing me to pieces with no one to rescue me. O Lord my God, if I have done wrong or am guilty of injustice, if I have betrayed a friend or plundered my enemy without cause, then let my enemies capture me. Let them trample me into the ground and drag my honor in the dust. This interlude. Oh, arise, O Lord, in anger. Ooh, so right here he's trying to stir them. Arise, O Lord, in anger. Stand up against the fury of my enemies. Wake up, my God, and bring justice. Gather the nations before you. Rule over them from on high. The Lord judges the nations. Declare me righteous, O Lord, for I am innocent, O Most High, in the evil of those who are wicked, and defend the righteous. For you look deep within the mind and heart, O righteous God. God, as my shield, saving those whose hearts are true and right. God is an honest judge. He is angry with the wicked every day. If a person does not repent, God will sharpen his sword. He will bend and string his bow. He will prepare his deadly weapons and shoot his flaming arrows. The wicked conceive evil. They are pregnant with trouble and give birth to lies. They dig a deep pit to trap others, then fall into it themselves. The trouble they make for others backfires on them. The violence they plan falls on their own heads. I will thank the Lord because he is just. I will sing praise to the name of the Lord Most High. David is going through he's going through something. I just want to know what it is. I don't have enough context clues about David to be able to be like, oh, this is when David was going through blah, blah, blah. But he's going through something. We can assume that it's some sort of persecution. He's really, right now, all I know of David is these Psalms. All I really, really know of David is these Psalms. So, he's given tortured artist, I want to celebrate because, yay, day 7, 1 week. Yes, let's go. We do this 3 more times and a habit has formed. 2 more times, right? 3 weeks would be 21 days. 21 days to form a habit. Let's go. Let's do this 2 more times. We can do it. I honestly have been enjoying this moment because, I come into this now, really, I be in the emotional situations each time. Each day has been a different emotional process to get to in front of the camera. But I am glad that 7 days have passed. I'm gonna celebrate the small things. God, thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for pushing me forward. Thank you for holding me in, holding me together. Thank you for pushing me forward. Thank you for holding me together, God. Illuminate your word. Breathe life into it so that we know which verses are meant to stay with us in our current season, so that we know which verses are meant to guide us in our current season. I'm striving to get to you closer and closer, to commune with you longer and longer, Father God. I thank you for every moment of hesitation you pushed me through and pulled me along, for every ounce of patience you showed me while you waited for my obedience. Father God, I'm going to work continuously to be obedient. Obedience in the radical sense. Because that is scary. But obedience in the radical sense, Father God. Renew my mind so that I may know how to strengthen my faith, not only to withstand the attacks of the enemy, but to be able to carry on and carry out the commands you set before me, Father God. Show me the way. Light my path. Show the daughters the way. Light their path. Illuminate us. Let us know when a word is meant to guide us. Let us see you in every moment you are there. Let us see the interworkings of how you are shaping us, how you are molding us. Shine. Shine. I tell you time and time again, there is not a portion of my life that is closed off to you. Enter into every aspect of my being, into every aspect of my life. For every plan I have set forth for the first half of this month, if it cannot be done by your way, if it is not in line with your will, if it's not approved by you, like all of my plans, I'm laying them before you so that you can stamp your approval on them. And if it is not your approval, it's okay. I'm not holding on that tight. I don't need them. Everything that enters my life in the year 2020 needs the approval of my God, the God of Abraham. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen. Have a good one, y'all. It is late. It's midnight. So you'll see me in a couple hours because I have to do day 8. But have a good one. Get some rest. Congratulations. Okay, bye.